The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hello, folks. This is Steve Moore. This is the More Money Show. That, of course, is the More Money theme song, Money by the Beatles. And we always play that because we have this show because we want you to make more money. And so it is a great privilege to be with you. There's so much going on today that normally I would give you my 10-minute riff about what's going on, but I'm going to start right away to go to one of my heroes and somebody who is a lot about money, Steve Forbes. We would not have an Unleashed Prosperity organization if it were not for Steve Forbes. He is, as you know, the president of Forbes Media. He ran for president twice and infiltrated the country with amazing ideas. And so, Steve Forbes, thanks for joining on a Saturday.
Good to be with you, even though in this part of the world it is freezing. Hopefully that does not reflect the economy. We have got spring coming, both in weather and the economy.
I would say that this is a pretty red hot economy. And one of the reasons I called Steve yesterday, I said, I got to get you on the show because of something we were talking with Larry Kudlow about earlier, which is that we have Dow 50,000, which is really pretty amazing, Steve Forbes, because you are maybe a little older than I am, but I remember when I first got started in my career, early 80s, the Dow was at about 1,000. And here we are, some 45 years later, and the Dow is at 50,000. I mean, this is one of the greatest period of wealth creations in history.
And I'm old enough to remember in the mid-'70s, when we had a terrible recession, 74, 75, the Dow was in the 500s. So you multiply that by 60-fold.
Amazing. Yeah.
And so, also, too, during the crisis of 2007, 2000 through 2009, you look at the S&P, that's up tenfold. The Dow was up tenfold.
Unbelievable.
And the NASDAQ, which reached a high in the early 2000, around 2000 of 5,000, and crashed 80% down to 1,000. So it's come up more than 20-fold. So it's been quite an extraordinary ride.
And so it makes you proud to be an American. We've blown away. But there's so many tangents to this story, Steve. I want to, one of the reasons, by the way, Steve Forbes should take a bow on this is because he was one of the architects of the supply side Reagan Revolution. And I do think if you wanted to point to one thing that started this, because you're right, the Dow had in the decade before Reagan came into office, the Dow actually lost about 40% of its value in real terms because of the high inflation and high tax rates. And then, as Arthur Laffer would say, the clouds dispersed, the sun came out, and God gave America Ronald Reagan. And of course, the Reagan tax cuts, along with the Volcker conquering of inflation, I would say those were the two key events that really launched this rocket ship of the American economy.
And that's one thing to keep in mind with the great Reagan tax cuts that got the top rate, as you recall, from 70% down to as low as 28%.
Amazing.
Was imitated, not on that scale, but 50 other countries slashed their tax rates as well. So we had a great global boom right through until the early 21st century. And one of the things I hope that is going to be done in the next few months is another tax bill where we cut income tax rates explicitly, cut the corporate rate down to 15, which President Trump had wanted to do in the first round, and cut the capital gains tax to 10 or 15%. You get some real rate cuts like that. The first bill passed last year. The big thing was preventing a massive tax increase, and then we got some other good things put in there, like instant expensing, factories and tips and everything else. But now we got to go for another big one to make sure this economy lasts, and that also gets to Kevin Warsh at the Federal Reserve, getting that institution terribly managed, not managed institution, but with a fundamentally flawed view of the world that good times cause inflation. Got to change that attitude because we've got currency crises that are brewing all around the world, massive debt all around the world. And by the way, while you got me on a rant, one of the things that we're paying a price for now, are going to be paying more of a price, is the zero interest rate policy that Ben Bernanke and other central banks around the world, led by the Fed, brought in, that led to massive increases in debt because the money was free. It was like charging $10,000 to your credit card, and the next month's payment went down. So government debt ballooned. So we got big problems there, and we got to set a very good example here at home, like Reagan did in the 1980s.
So I was, as you were reciting some of those statistics, I'm going to give you a few more, Steve. So the top tax rate, as you just said, in 1980 and throughout the 1970s was 70%, and Reagan cut that from 70 to 28%, which is incredible. I mean, that's a 60% decline in tax rates. And of course, that led to a lot of innovation, a lot of entrepreneurship, and a lot of growth and capital coming to the United States. And then the capital gains tax was 40, and today it's at 24%. So I agree with you. We got to keep bringing that down, but still, that's quite a stimulus. And then the corporate tax that you mentioned, I believe it was around 45 to 50% when Reagan came in. I don't remember the exact
48%.
48.
And, one of the
now we're at 21.
In the 80s, we got it down to 35, where it got stuck for over 30 years.
Right.
And then in President Trump's first term, thanks to you and Arthur and others, whacked it down to 21, and
21.
Which was a great stimulus. And now we got to do another round.
Couldn't agree more. Now, so the lower tax rates was one thing that happened. We did have sound money throughout most of this period. You're right. We made a bunch of mistakes along the way, but I would say for the most part, we've had we certainly haven't had, I remember when I graduated from college, the mortgage rates were 15% and the inflation rate was 10%. And now we have the inflation rate down to about 2.5% to 3%. So monetary policy, I would say, has been generally pretty good, although mistakes have been made. And then regulation, by the way, I think that deregulation, which started under Reagan and is accelerated under President Trump, has also been a factor.
The regulation thing, it's one of those subjects like monetary policy that puts people to sleep. You're not going to, it's not like Real Housewives kind of thing. No appeal there, but it is fundamental. Regulations are a form of taxation.
Yes.
And we've had estimates from Competitive Enterprise Institutes and others that about $2.5 trillion of regulations have been put on in recent years, which slammed manufacturing. That's what put manufacturing flat on its back.
Yes.
A typical average employee for a manufacturer, regulations cost $29,000 per employee versus $5,000 or $6,000 in taxes. So that's what ground our economy down, and we made some progress in Trump's first term, but of course Biden reversed it badly. Now we're getting it again, and if they keep pursuing that, as Lee Zeldin did with electronic vehicles and some of these other things, all these appliances they wanted to make so they didn't work anymore, like washing machines that couldn't wash, air conditioners that couldn't cool, heaters that couldn't heat, gas stoves,
toilets that didn't flush.
Those out. So reversing those is going to not just in the short term, but long term, provide a fundamental positive foundation for future growth.
So that voice is that of the great Steve Forbes, and so I wanted to brag on you a little bit because your ideas have really helped change the world, and the two among many that I applaud. We haven't gotten all the way there yet, but we're moving in that direction. It's one, a flat tax, and I think your plan was 17 or 18%. I would love to see that, by the way, and I do think at some point we are going to get to the Steve Forbes flat tax, and then the other idea that it's a real tragedy, Steve Forbes, that when you ran for president, I think it was 1996, was it, that you ran, and you proposed this crazy idea, I'm using that in quotes, crazy, because it was an amazing idea, of letting young people put 10 or 12% of their paycheck into an IRA or, type of account, an index fund.
Social Security accounts. And by the way, and this is one of the things I like about, even though it's been made fun of President Trump's baby accounts, I see that as a baby step to bringing in the system in the next few years.
I agree. So if we had done your plan, Steve, because that's radical, and people, your friend Paul Krugman said, it's too risky. Remember, too risky to put the money in the stock market. And of course, here we are 30 years later, and the stock market's up 20-fold or something like that since you proposed that idea. We've got to do that, don't we, Steve? We've got to let every young person, put 10, 12% of their paycheck and put it and make it voluntary, by the way. If young people want to stay in Social Security, we'll guarantee you get the crummy benefit you get from Social Security, but under your plan, you're probably going to get 3 or 4 times more. And we would literally, if we'd done your plan, Steve Forbes, virtually every single person who's retiring today would have well over $1 million in their account.
And the thing is, one, they'd have 3 to 4 times the benefits they're currently receiving from Social Security.
That's right.
And also, the nice thing is you get to choose your retirement age. If you want to do it at 60, great. You want to wait to 90, great. Or do it partially when you're 85. And if there's money left in your account, you can pass it on to your heirs, your grandkids, your favorite dog or whatever. But you control it. And the beauty part of this, one of the beauty parts, is that it turns a capital destroyer, which the payroll tax is, into a capital creator, a real engine for the economy. And one of the nice things, if young people have their own personal accounts, one, they learn what capitalism, i.e. money, and they also realize it's their labor that is creating those resources, that money in their accounts, not Washington politicians, not a gift from these free spenders, but their labor. And they're going to have less tolerance for policies that can jeopardize the value of what their labor produced.
Yes. We would have created a nation of shareholders. And one of the things that I like about your idea, first of all, people always say, well, it's too late to do it now. It's too late. It's not too late to do that. I mean, look, there's no reason the markets can't continue on with good policies, continue on their upward trajectory.
That's right. And again, even if people don't want to go in the stock market, over a lifetime, 40 years of working for 50 years, whatever. And by the way, I think people are going to change the nature of retirement. You may go out of one profession and end up going into something else because you like to use your time for something that gives you satisfaction, whatever that might be. But the thing is that you have a much richer economy than you would before, and you get to choose your retirement age. And also, too, one of the things we propose, not to get too nerdy, is if you're married, you're a couple, is that half of the money you earn, half of the money in that account would go to your spouse's account, and vice versa. So if the union is severed, which sadly happens, there's no quarrel about who has what. That's already taken care of. So you don't have to worry about, the housewife taking care of the kids. What's it going to be in her account? Half of her spouse's, half of her husband's money will go into her account. So it's great all around, and people realize we estimate that creates things.
We estimate that the average person could get a bigger benefit and pass on $1 million to their kids. This is something you can't do with Social Security. Steve Forbes, I know I pay you by the hour. Could I hold you over for one more segment?
Yes, since overtime's not taxed, yes, you can.
It's not taxed. All right, folks, this is the More Money Show. We're talking to Steve Forbes. He has very charitably agreed to come on for more because I want to ask him about the Fed. I want to ask him about the new Fed chairman coming in, who is somebody I very much like, and I want to see if Steve Forbes agrees with me about Kevin, because I think he's going to be fantastic. We'll be right back, folks. This is the More Money Show. We are back, folks. This is the More Money Show, and I've got a few minutes left with my hero, Steve Forbes. Steve was talking about the flat tax. He was talking about Social Security personal accounts. We're talking about Dow 50,000. I wanted to, Steve, in our last minutes, talk a little bit about Kevin Warsh, who is the new Fed chairman. And there's a lot of acrimony in Washington about whether he will be independent. I think he should be independent. But Kevin Warsh probably better than I do. I like the guy a lot. He was our choice, but what do you think?
Oh, I think that he will set a course that is best for the country. Stable dollar, making the Fed realize prosperity does not cause inflation, reducing the size of the Fed's balance sheet, and they're grabbing more control over the economy. And that's how you get greater growth and lower interest rates, the natural way, the real way. So I think he'll be good. And this thing about Powell, and whether he wasn't truthful to Congress about the Taj Mahal renovations is an irrelevancy. And what President Trump should do, as John Carney and others have suggested, is Trump should issue a pardon.
Well,
any wrongdoing he did, and get this thing done.
Yeah, you wrote that great book called Inflation. What's the title of it? Inflation, Why It's Bad.
Inflation, what it is, why it's bad, and how to fix it. And do you think he'll fix it? Is Kevin Warsh going to fix it? I think he will. And I think one of the things he recognizes is that there's a difference between price changes that come about because of disruptions to production, like we did during COVID, shut everything down. Guess what? Prices are going to go up because nobody's producing anything. Right. And when you lower the value of the dollar.
Well, that's what we want, Steve Forbes. We want someone who will protect the value of the dollar, maintain America's status as the world reserve currency. Folks, this is the More Money Show with Steve Forbes. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for listening to More Money with Steve Moore. You can hear More Money with Steve Moore Saturday afternoons at 1. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?